Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to go over our commodity technical analysis update. I'll give you my financial opinion and we'll dive in there. Looks like first I'll cover Powell went up 0.75 basis points. I didn't listen to anything of his speech or anything afterwards, so it looks like there's some things he must have said where originally people were bidding the 10-year up and the 30-year yield up. And I can see that that obviously reversed. So it must be a little bit more dovish out in the future, whatever he was talking about, than being hawkish and even more increases of interest rates. So we can go through and step through all of these things together. I'll give you my opinions as I go. And we're going to start with the dollar. So the dollar is strengthening. This is a relative strength indicator. Keep that in mind. It is continuing to strengthen. If you've been listening over the past few days, that's what we expected. We had the large up candlestick, the sideways movement, and then usually what happens is a upward move. And that's exactly what we've gotten. We've gotten that upward move in the dollar. Now it's up to whomever to keep this thing going, but that was the setup. It's stair-stepping higher. Still looks good for a potential move higher. It finished quite strong. And with the dollar going up, some investors around the world prefer dollar-denominated assets over other assets. But this, I think, is highly related to the increasing interest rate environment. And right now, we are seeing the dollar continue to strengthen. It's also breaking out of this longer-term resistance line here, that white line going across here. It's breaking that to the upside, and we could see much further tightening I should say, further higher moves in the dollar. Looking at the 10-year yield, we kind of zoom in here. We are getting somewhat of a reversal candlestick, where we came up and left a wick at the top where we could potentially pull back in yields. And we'll see where those yields go, but in the short term, it's looking to me like we could potentially pull back for a little bit. Looking at TLT, which is bond prices, that is pulling up higher today. Again, I'd like to see a little bit more data before really saying that this is going to change its momentum, but it did have a powerful day today and finished quite strong for bond prices. TYX, the 30-year yield, also putting in that inverted hammer where we could potentially head lower. Yields could cool off a little bit. And then the TYX to TNX is starting to come right up against that support level. If we get a turn in this and it starts to go higher, I think that gold, silver will do quite well. Those are the ones that are correlated to this ratio moving higher. So if that moves higher and we get support here and those yields start to back off, and especially if we get a little bit of a weaker dollar, we could see precious metals start to take off here. The CRB index, I see something flat here, so not much development there outside of just moving sideways. Gold, a little bit higher today. Again, I'd like to see some buyers step in here and take control right now. If they don't take control, we still have this momentum from the sellers coming down, and the buyers haven't really stepped in yet. We could go lower if the sellers want to push it lower. So I'd like to see some buyers show up here. Silver's looking better, looking a lot better than gold. Nice, good kind of drive up, and then the selling pressure is kind of muted. That usually results in a move higher with that type of setup. And then platinum getting a little bit more of a reversal day. I'd like to see it come back down, and I'll buy some more if we can get a little bit lower move here. Probably around this region there at about 880 in that general vicinity. Looking at the companies themselves in the ETF, SILJ, again, this still doesn't look too bad. I don't see sellers, and I see no reversal candlesticks here. Still looks good for a potential move higher. We're right on support. So that's looking good. And again, silver looks good itself. So this should match up. GDX also just moving sideways, very much like gold itself. And kind of looking at this, we are right in that support region where we've got support right underneath us. Scrolling down and looking at crude oil had a pretty big reversal day. I remember seeing that in the morning up over 2%, and it finished quite strong to the downside. I do think that there is more downside in oil in the short term before we head higher. I do not see any bullish candlesticks or reversal patterns at this time. We've got large down selling pressure, multiple areas. The buying pressure is not as large. So I am expecting this move to go lower here after looking at a bearish engulfing, a bearish engulfing, and a bearish engulfing. 3 of them in a row, which makes me think that we are going to head lower in oil. Natural gas, zooming in here. Again, I'm not convinced that we are going to go higher yet. We do see kind of a shoulder, head, shoulder with a neckline there. We do have larger selling pressure, not much buying pressure. We could fall down into the fall right before elections, which is what they want. Again, that's what I see in this chart in the short term. Long term, ultra bullish in oil and natural gas. XOP is also throwing a bearish signal where we could potentially head lower here. This is a bearish engulfing. I do think that we're going to head lower in the short term, which I am actually very happy and excited about because I can buy cheaper shares in some of my favorite companies. How big is this pullback going to be? That's what we're going to have to find out. But we could pull back maybe to this general area back here where we have support. That is what I hope happens. And that'll get us into this area at 106 or something like that, where we've got some good support that runs across this white line. That would be a breakout, a retest, and then kind of a double type bottom move out of the stock. So I do think there's more potential downside in the short term for these. OIH is also showing some more downside here after this release of news and whatever they said. To me, it looks like we could potentially head lower here from a bearish engulfing that came up today. It looked very good here. That day looks good there. That green day, which is a bullish piercing, but we came in with a bearish engulfing. And looking at oil and the exploration production companies, they also look a little bit bearish. So I'm leaning bearish in the short term for these areas. Uranium, the futures pricing, I don't know if this is a day delayed, but it's still at that support level. If we go into the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, we were down today. It is a bearish type engulfing pattern. We'll see where this goes. I think I am favoring the downside at this short-term time. It's right on support, though, so we'll see if the buyers come in and step in here. But right now, I'm favoring a lower move still after this news release. Uranium also getting a little bit more selling pressure. We're starting to break away from our support zone. We could head a little bit lower here with this momentum. Looking at CCJ, CCJ is also getting some selling pressure and putting in a bearish engulfing. It's something I don't want to see in the short term. Everybody I know wants to be bullish. So here's your bullish piercing or engulfing, and then you get your bearish engulfing. So the news that was released today, some of the people are seeing this as a little bit of a short term, sell the news type event. We could see a little bit of downside pressure. We'll see how far we go, but that's what I see in the short term for CCJ and URNM. COPX also feeling a little bit of selling pressure. It's not really a reversal candlestick or anything like that. We're still above support. So again, I'd like to see small down days or something to kind of mute this move. I don't want to see big blowout down days where we just start rocketing lower. What that means is that we could have a lot more selling pressure ahead of us, a lot more. And right now, I would start to take defensive stances if the markets really start to blow out. And I'll show you what the overall markets look like here shortly. But that one's there. The CRB, the commodity to stock ratio, is still very favorable for commodities. We broke out of this guy to the upside. Looks really strong for that continued outperformance. But commodities as a whole still look weak. So we're talking about weak versus weaker at this time. Rare earth metals, no reversal candlestick, still looks bullish to me on the short term for REMX. Lithium still looks all right. No reversal candlestick here. We're still above support. We've got a little bit of a tightening or squeezing happening, but that still looks all right. The S&P 500 looks pretty bad. It finished quite strong to the downside. This very well could drag a lot of things lower with it. I definitely think that this looks like we're going to head lower in the S&P 500, and it could obviously grab some of our stuff and yank it with it. The NASDAQ, or the U.S. Composite Index, is also looking quite weak and sick. Looks like to me that we want to head lower here, and that is a bearish engulfing pattern. We finished strong to the downside. Does not look good for the overall stock market. And then EEM also looks pretty weak. We had a very strong dollar today. The DXY heading higher. EEM is definitely having problems here. Looks like we're heading lower, and that this is kind of a false breakout into a breakdown, and no real good follow through here. That dollar is definitely weighing it down. XHB is also heading lower. We're starting to break that to the downside. Definitely not looking good there for XHB. Looking at lumber also heading lower, but we're still within the pattern. We'll see what happens there. Nickel looking a lot stronger, actually. Rarely out of the group, but that looks very strong for a move higher in nickel. Cocoa futures moving sideways, still looks good. We've got wheat. Wheat is still looking ultra strong. I think that has more upside if it wants to go. We've got soybeans still looking strong. I don't see any reversal candlesticks, still creating this pattern. Corn still looking all right with the bloody nose, a little bit of a bloody nose there. And then copper we need to watch. If this thing starts to dive lower, takes off to the downside, we could see very much weakness across the board in a lot of different things. If we've got the S&P 500 dive bombing, the NASDAQ dive bombing, and if copper really starts to dive bomb, we could be seeing a sell-off here, overall larger sell-off. So we've got that. Moo is also selling off a little bit. We'll see what this thing does tomorrow. Had a nice, good bullish candlestick there, but we're following up with a little bit of selling pressure today. Again, we'll have to see what happens tomorrow. Looking at aluminum, aluminum's looking pretty weak here, actually. A lot of things are looking very weak. And this is also heading lower for aluminum. I don't know if they're going to make any aluminum, because if aluminum prices are going down and the price and cost of everything around the world is increasing, we could see a lot of these metals get squeezed. The mining companies, the smelters and stuff like that in some of these areas. I would say the smelters. And then the Baltic Dry Index, I think this also might be delayed, but it's up a lot, 11.33%. That also overall looks all right. But that's what I've got for today, guys. A lot of bearish patterns forming today in the short term. I do think that we're going to head lower in the short term. That's what it's showing me, and that's what I'm going to have to go with. I'm not selling anything. I'm just holding on, riding this stuff. And it does look pretty bearish, though. And the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, that does not look good. That looks like it's going to head a lot lower, but I don't know anything in it. So definitely looking weak across the board in the short term at this time. If you guys like this analysis, give me a thumbs up. If you guys need help navigating these markets, you can sign up for the Platinum membership over here at finding-value.com. I do have on Thursday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we're going to have a technical training course that you guys can obviously attend. And if you can't attend, I'll videotape it, put it on the website, and you can watch all the past recordings. We also have a question and answer session Sunday at 5 p.m. That is 9/25, I believe, the 25th. Yep, 25th Sunday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Platinum question and answer session. All right, guys, that's all I've got for today. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.